Previously on Kenshi. Welcome back, guys. This is a Cannibal Grand Wizard, and this is a colony full of Fogmen. This is the ironic dinner. Welcome to Jackass. But how did we get here? Well, last episode, Monkey and Uyghur fulfilled their wildest dreams by becoming bounty hunters, and while we captured quite a few criminals last time, there are still tons of maniacs out there on the loose, including the Cannibal Grand Wizard, whose location is currently unknown to us. Now, I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but I'm willing to bet he lives somewhere around this region. Just a hunch. I just have a feeling he might be here for some reason. With our path relatively set, we left the house heading west. On the way there, we ran into a random outpost that belongs to the Yabuta Outlaws, so I kinda just killed these guys for existing. Anyways, now that our squad had tasted some blood and was warmed up, I felt even more confident pushing deeper into the Cannibal Plains, where we were soon greeted by a group of cannibals. Not only that, but they happened to be standing outside of a massive tower connected by a bridge. Historically, a tower or a bridge could both mean something major, but a tower and a bridge? I had to check it out. Unfortunately, when I walked in, I was greeted with probably the goofiest thing I have ever seen. Some Hansel and Gretel ass path of goods on the floor. Like I was a mouse, I was just gonna be like, ooh, bread, ooh, first aid kit, and then get ganked by 100 cannibals upstairs. Nuh-uh. I may be stupid, but I'm not dumb. The worst part? This isn't even the cannibal we're looking for. This guy is named Klelak Chewy Fingers. Bounty or not, I still felt obligated to kill him. He is still a cannibal, which is probably illegal, and is using goods downstairs to scam people into being eaten alive. After that interaction, we were sadly back on the road, just as lost as before. Luckily for me, after wandering around for a while, the game blessed me with this notification. I didn't even have to do anything. The game just felt bad for me and showed me the biggest city in the region. Of course, when I stopped to ask the locals if they had heard of him, I was met only with violence. However, I noticed that the people who were attacking me had come from the town and moved towards it to get a closer look, which is when I noticed a well-dressed man, at least in comparison to his naked brothers. It was him, the Cannibal Grand Wizard, which I will be officially renaming to the Cannibal Grand Pushover, as he didn't even pose much of a threat. I disposed of his soldiers pretty quickly, and then hit him so hard he broke his leg, which I don't even understand. Either way, we had acquired our new Fogmen bait, but before we make it to Mongrel, I wanted to stop at the nearby town of World's End to gather some supplies. Last time we were here, Monkey demonstrated how easily someone could steal something if they wanted to. Wait, no. Monkey, not right now. Don't steal things right now. What are you doing? Jesus, he's out of control. Great, and now we're being chased out of town. Well, I guess we're not getting anything from there. Continuing on our way to Mongrel, I kept my eye out for a spot to drop off our new guest. The first fog camp we found was empty, and surprisingly so was the second one. When I come here normally, there's 100 Fogmen, but of course when I want to see them, they're not here. Luckily, I walked into a third camp that was bustling with Fogmen. This was pretty risky, and if Monkey was any slower, he would have been in danger. But eventually, we outran them, and they gave up, returning to the meal we had dropped off for them. To my surprise, the Cannibal Wizard had nothing to say. When we did this to the Holy Phoenix, he screamed, but the Cannibal Wizard accepted his fate, like he knew that this day would always come. And with that, another criminal with a bounty was taken care of. But, you know, with tax breaks and everything, we couldn't just go back home empty-handed. We have to have prisoners to make money, especially since we had our hands on a cult leader and let him die instead. Who else is a cult leader? This might be controversial, but the Hive is kind of a cult. The Hivers are mostly harmless and mind their own business, but they're just as quick to exile and kill their own kind over the smallest mistakes. Removing the Hive would make many of them homeless, but would also bring justice to those that have been exiled. In order to do this, we'd have to take out both the queens. Luckily, the Queen of the West lives on an island west of Vane, which is pretty close to us. However, I did not expect there to be multiple islands west of Vane. I swam to the very first one I saw, super excited, only to find out it was a piece of old junk. Once I realized there was multiple islands, I headed to the next biggest one a little south from there, this time being greeted with a tower, which I thought was a good sign, only to find a million Fogmen inside that wanted to eat my bones. So I ran in. After fighting the entire tower off, I was feeling defeated and lost. But there was one more island I hadn't checked yet, so I put my negativity aside and swam to the last possible island. And boy am I glad I did. I felt like the guy from the diamond meme. I almost went home, but something told me to check the last island. It was way smaller than I expected, but I still managed to get lost in every building besides the queen's. Once I found the actual queen herself, I was greeted with animosity. I tried smoothing things over with her, but she's not a very good listener. Honestly, it's probably a sign of a psychopath, and in some ways, she was obstructing justice. So we began arresting her. Of course, in true criminal fashion, she resisted arrest and got her henchmen involved too. I felt kind of bad for them, brainwashed by this cult leader to give their lives. So even though I beat them up, I chose not to take any of the hivers to jail. The queen went down super easy, and in the mess of the fight, I tried to kidnap her while she was still down. But that's when I noticed something very disturbing. Repairs? Rebooting? The hiver's precious queen wasn't a hive at all. This was a manufactured phony. A metal robot designed to incubate their young and manipulate an entire species. The hive cult leader wasn't even real. I had to get to the bottom of this. I needed to speak with the Queen of the South and see if she knew anything about this. But for now, we had taken a small beating in the hive and I wanted to rest. We swam back from the western hive towards the closest town, which was Last Stand. As we got closer, I recognized this place. I had been here before in another video, and remembered that this was the place where the Shek come to prepare to take down the greatest bounty of all, someone named the Bugmaster, who has a whopping $100,000 bounty on his head. How could I have forgotten about this? I simply couldn't let it go. Being a bounty hunter was hard. I had already captured 2 cult leaders today, and even now when I'm just trying to sleep, I find another criminal. But such is the duty of Monkey and Uyghur, and you gotta do what you gotta do. This meant a very quick stay at Last Stand before venturing deeper into Iraq, until eventually we saw an outpost on the map and approached another looming tower surrounded by spiders. Before I could even enter the building, I was attacked by 1,000 spiders. Meanwhile, the Bugman just sat upstairs doing nothing. Downstairs, we continued to fend off the spiders, making sure to rip out their teeth, guaranteeing they would bleed out. And once we finally made it upstairs, it was a quick fight. Turns out, a naked man versus 30 archers doesn't bode too well. Of course, while I was distracted with the Bugman, the Hive Queen had begun her own prison escape downstairs and had to be subdued again. This felt like a sign to head home and put her in a cage right away, so I picked up the Bugman and did exactly that. While I let the rest of the squad rest up back at base, I began my 10-minute long swim to Alcatraz Island to put away our new prisoners. Once they had been secured, I could focus my efforts on the Queen of the South, which is exactly what we did the next morning when we set out for the Southern Hive. Once we arrived, I was taken aback by the size of their base. Compared to the Queen of the West, this was massive and completely different. Not only that, but while I was looking around her base, a metal gorilla walked out. His name was King, and I quickly put 2 and 2 together that this meant Hive King, and he was probably some sort of defender. Luckily, no one inside the hive had seen me yet, and he had just walked right out to us. So I took the opportunity to jump him, hoping the fight would be easier. But I was very wrong. Look at this guy's health. And of course reinforcements came to protect him. I did my best and put up a good fight. It was a long one, and we dealt a lot of damage to him, but I also almost had my entire team wiped. Eventually, I was able to catch King while he was down and pull out some circuitry, putting an end to his terror. After that, I immediately put down some bedrolls and tried to heal my team up as quickly as possible. Once we were back up and running, kidnapping the queen was actually way easier. As expected, they weren't just going to give her up. We had to fight through all the hivers and find the queen. But after being almost single-handedly killed by a robot gorilla, this was a piece of cake. We were able to pick her up quickly and flee the building, killing some stragglers behind us. Just like the last queen, this one was also a robot. Not only that, but she had a robot king that ruled beside her. Perhaps the skeletons are like a mafia, ruling from behind closed doors with invisible strings. I don't know, none of this makes sense to me, but I'm glad that we were able to put an end to it. These criminals have gone too far, and all these fishy things just weren't adding up. Once they were behind bars, I knew it would put an end to this. On the way home, to no surprise, I was notified that the hive would be attacking my base. Honestly, this seemed fair given that I had kidnapped their queen and stolen her away from them. But what I was surprised by was their fucking war gorillas. Are you joking? You have war gorillas? That's sick. Anyways, so now a bunch of hivers were headed towards my base with 5 war gorillas barreling behind them. Not only that, but we were getting back at the exact same time. I was neck and neck with the hivers trying to get back home to defend my base. Luckily for me, once again, my tunnel had done the trick. The hive attack was forced to go all the way around my base to the other entrance. And on the way, they ran into some samurai and other factions. With their gorillas completely distracted, the hive tried to attack my base by themselves and got melted by my harpoons. I watched the gorillas some more to see if they would actually attack, but with their leader killed, they just ate corpses. Now that the hive attack was over, we could finally complete our prison, and here it is. The Voodoo Brothers, Ponk and Screamer. a man who hates the government, the leader of the guerrilla bandits, the Queen of the West, and the Queen of the South, the legendary Bugmaster, and last but not least, Savant, leader of the Skin Bandits, totaling up to $295,000 in bounties. Now, who's going to pay me all that? Because, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.